Okay, so made a ton of progress working on scratch build, calling it the Ether here recently. So last video I was just where I joined the wings, but now I've got flaperons cut out, the install done, and I'm just programming the flaperons. Now, I found that if you can, it's a lot easier to do that before you mount the tails or anything. So we're just doing the aileron movements today. Here's the install. The push rods are 0.8 millimeter music wire shrouded in carbon tubes that are, I think they're 2 millimeters on the outside and 1 millimeter on the inside. The music wire runs the whole distance there. I just like to do it that way instead of the ends poking in. I've got keepers on both sides just because I'm not a huge fan of Z-bends. They're just not my favorite thing, and these work great. Pretty clean install, probably the best one I've ever done as far as that goes. So we've got just the flaperon movements here today. So it's speed mode. You can see it's double centering a little bit. I expect that from these servos. They just do it. It's not every time. See, if you bump it back, I can tell when it's flying. Obviously, if it's double centered a little bit, and if I just literally, if it's double centered, just bump it a little bit, it'll straighten back out. But it's just something you get used to. I think, honestly, for these servos being $9, they still work awesome. They're plenty durable. They've been really reliable for me, and I can deal with it double centering a little bit every once in a while. Doesn't do it every time. So got it set where it's 15 millimeters up and down. That's just what I like. Got speed mode is flat bottom. I launch it in speed mode as well. Cruise is about 2 millimeters down, and thermal is about 4 millimeters down. That's how I do it every time. Same travel with across all camber presets, 15 millimeters up and down. Geometry wise, geometry is hard to get right on these things. It just is. The tiniest differences in horn length and stuff affect everything so much. I'm close. Next time I've got to make the aileron horns just a little bit shorter, probably about 1 or 2 millimeters actually shorter where the push rod comes into the hole. They're a little bit too long. They're only giving me 30 millimeters of down travel for landing flaps, which is the minimum acceptable. I think that's going to be okay. This is a heavier ship. I'm going to fly it in windier weather anyway. It's designed, I built this one for a little bit windier days. So it doesn't actually need as much landing flaps, being that I'll be landing into a decent headwind every time. You don't want too much down travel in a headwind because the plane will stop and fall out of the air. So this is actually okay. 30 millimeters down. I don't know what angle it is. It's probably right around 45 degrees down, which is plenty for as long as you have some kind of headwind. And calm weather, the plane would be coming in a little bit hotter than I'd want it to. I'd probably want to flare it a little bit before the catch, and a calm with no headwind on a landing with 30 millimeters down. My goal was 35 millimeters down, so I'm really close. Like I said, next time if I make the aileron horns just a wee bit shorter and keep everything else the same, it'll definitely give me that 35 millimeters down. So next model I'm going to build is this same one, I think, and I'm going to try to build it absolutely as light as possible to try to get a light ship and just to compare the two. This one's probably going to come in around 190 grams or so, all said and done once I'm finished with it. I'd like to build the next one and just really go all out and try to get it down to around 160, 165, and then I'll make those changes, but we're really close here. It's taken years of experimentation kind of to really get this right. It's not easy. The geometry is probably one of the hardest parts to get right on these things, but I'm really close. So yeah, got again, speed, cruise, thermal, same landing flaps across all when you set up your landing flaps across flight modes in a Spektrum, you don't want the landing flaps changed. So the value changes across the camber presets, but the flap shouldn't move any on full. So I have the same landing flaps across all modes, of course. Haven't set up launch mode or anything else yet. I'll need to get the tails mounted before I continue with the programming, but this is good. Anyway, so still got to I made a cone. It's decent. So now I have to start working on making the little pod that goes underneath the wing. It's kind of a pseudopod like my last one was. It only extends out to about 2/3 of the cord of the wing, and then those push rods will stick out the back of it. Obviously, I'll do another video and you'll see. And then we'll have to mount the tails and do everything involved with that, and run the beetle on, or the pull wire, which runs through those 2 Teflon tubes, and it'll actually go through the fuselage this time. My last models, it was always on the outside of the boom. I'll finally get one really done right this time on the inside of the boom, and then I'll have to put the throwing peg and the wingtip, which doesn't take very long, and then we'll finish programming and balance it, and then we'll be ready to go. So hopefully a couple more weeks here, I'll have her in the air. That's the goal. Definitely before Thanksgiving. So slowly but surely, should be a pretty cool ship, I hope so.